3 o'clock, do they? Well, that must mean Mod Betty's on. Hey, network connection. Okay, wait a minute. All right. So it's like real life, people. Hello, Retro Road Mappers, Mod Betty. And I don't know if you just saw the beginning right there. I thought Retro Road Husband had shut off the lights. But the weather shut off the lights because we had a storm coming through town earlier, and now it's still windy out, and our electricity just went out. So I don't know how that's going to affect today, but you know what? We're going to roll with it. So hello, everybody. Let me just get myself all situated here. Hey, Craig, nice to see you. Hopefully the bad weather we're having now bypassed you, and hopefully it's going somewhere else. But yeah, it's really windy out, and as I mentioned, we just lost our power, so you may see some lights go on behind me. Helen, nice to see you from, rainy day. Yeah, I think it's rainy everywhere. It's always extra unfun when the rain is at the beach or the shore, as you Jersey folks like to call it, because it's supposed to be nice there. And actually, we did have a nice morning. And the reason, everybody, I'm talking about the weather is just in case anything goes wonky. Donna, I don't know if you have electricity on your side of the town, but we literally, as I just tuned in here, we lost our power. It is? Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. Hey, wait, so you did shut off those lights? No. Then the pole light. Okay, sorry, a little behind the scenes, whatever. Don't look. There we go. Ah. Okay, so at least I'll know if the lights go out again. Okay. Drama. So as I mentioned earlier, okay, Donna, good to know. Ours just blew out, but it came back. I'm going to practice my hand modeling here. No, it goes like this. Okay. So as promised last time, I'm doing a state, an episode. And I am covering New York today. And here's the thing, people, is I often, and I even have three retro road maps, like my own personal maps, and I typically divide up New York into 3 distinct places, because I figure if you're in one place, you're not going to go to the other. The 3 distinct ways, I don't know why I'm telling you I divide up New York, because my basic decision was that I usually do, low network connection. Okay, in case I drop out, just so you know, we are experiencing weird stuff with the internet and the electricity because of a storm here today, but we're persevering. So I'm talking about New York, okay? I'm talking about New York, fun places to go, not only in New York, the entire state. So that's New York City, it's Long Island, and it's what I just called New York State, which is, the more contiguous 48 version of it. And what I thought I would do is about New York City, but here's my thing with New York City. Even though I love it, and it's got some good stuff in it, there are also so many other people who cover New York City, and kind of better than me. Here we go. You know what? I'll do this. So yes, Souvenir of New York City. I've got a bunch of these. I love these. These are those little postcard collection things. The world's metropolis. So there are many people who, I will admit, cover New York, not better than me, but in addition to me. And I love to sing the praises of the people who are covering kind of the same stuff I love, because it's like we're all in this together. So yes, I'm just going to talk a little bit about New York City, and then we're going to dive into New York State and Long Island. So in any case, New York City, and you know what? Is anybody interested in me opening one of these up? Oh yeah, I heard somebody. It was actually me. Hello, Jeff Cooper. Nice to see you from the UK. So this is actually, I'll just do a real quick thing. I'm not even sure when this is, but this is a vintage New York postcard collection. You could have mailed this one thing as a postcard. Thank you, Melissa, for the encouragement, and also I'm totally giving you a shout out a little bit later in the show. So you rock, my dear. Okay, so this is like you would buy one postcard, but then let me see if this works. Oh yeah, check that out. Then you would be sending somebody postcards, all this neat stuff. Now check this out. I think this is probably the first time this one has been opened up. And the neat thing is, so you're seeing this one side, and let me see if I can do something like this. This is like those videos I'm doing for the Retro Roadmap Facebook page with my vintage travel collection. Let me see if I can do this. Oh, it's upside down. Okay. Do 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 do. So the neat thing is that one side is all these vertical buildings. Like they have the Herald Square where Broadway meets 6th Avenue, Woolworth's building, and City Hall Plaza. Should be reading them up like this. But then on the other side, check it out. They've got all these ones too. So yeah. Check this out. Now you've got all these ones. All these cool old places. So there is a lot of stuff. Yes, when businesses are back open, I totally agree. We need to love up these places. And speaking of love, I love New York. What a great vacation. I do love New York. I love New York City. I love it all. But I'm gonna give you all some recommendations for New York City real quick. These are my recommendations, because then I'm going to almost like kind of psychologically pass you on to two other people because they do an awesome job for New York City. So I promised myself I would just mention a couple of places in Manhattan. And first of all, if I could get my act together and have a little bit of music in the background, I would be playing the song I'll Take Manhattan, which I love. And I love the Blossom Dearie version, but also seek out the Bobby Short version, because he just was such an articulator. He goes to, when we talk about Coney, we'll talk about Coney Island. He goes to Coney for bologna on a roll. But the following places, if I could only pick one place for each Retro Roadmap category, and if you remember, that's someplace to eat, someplace to shop, something to do, and someplace to stay. These are the places that Maud Betty, and there are so many more in New York City, but these are the ones that I would recommend. Okay, so I had two. Okay, to eat, let's say you were going out for breakfast, or maybe just a quick snack. The Lexington Candy Shop on the Upper East Side is a gem. I wrote about it for Retro Roadmap. And so it should be on the website. It's family owned and operated, total adorable corner luncheonette. I have very fond memories of visiting my friend Suzanne there. We met there like two dear friends that we are, and walked around New York. Also, I heard that back in the day, Paul McCartney used to go there because he and Linda lived in the neighborhood. So I thought that was kind of a cool association since I love the music. But if you want to do something kind of like a lunch countery type of thing in New York City, I highly recommend Lexington Candy Shop. And I don't know if you can hear that, but the wind is like crazy out. We may lose the power like we did at the beginning of the show. If you want to get a little bit more fancy, I actually have a Retro Roadmap video that we did, one of the fancy videos that I did a few years back on the Retro Roadmap YouTube channel. So check that out. And it's for this place called Donahue's. Donahue's is a steakhouse, really tiny, awesome little place with a classic bar. My friend Tony Sachs and I, Tony, you can see I'm channeling Bobby Short, Tony, and I met up there for Manhattans and steaks, and you can watch the video of that. But that is such an old school place. And I also know that, I don't know if he's watching, but Michael Hirsch, who's the president of the Society for Commercial Archaeology, he loves Donahue's too, and we need to meet up there at some point. But those are the two places that I would recommend that you eat. Oh, and actually I'm going to sneak in one more, okay? And especially because Melissa Carlson, you're watching, so check this out. There's a place, now it's on the lower west side. I can't remember exactly the neighborhood. It's called La Bonbonniere. And I knew about this place pretty much almost before the internet was invented, or very close by, because there is a band that I love called the Candy Butchers. Mike Viola, who actually was the voice of that song, That Thing You Do, the song that was written by Adam Schlesinger, one of Maud Betty's absolute favorite songwriters, who sadly passed away last week from COVID. In any case, Mike Viola of the Candy Butchers, they put together a little EP back in the day, they used to call them CDs, and La Bonbonniere is where they recorded it, and it was on the front of it. Now, I had the hardest time finding this place prior to the internet. I literally was in New York City, and I would call on a payphone trying to find out where it was, didn't find it. But we were able to go there a couple of years ago for my birthday, and it's just this wonderful kind of little luncheonette, bit of a greasy spoon type place that I love. And then, check this out. And Melissa, this is why I'm mentioning it to you, because I know that you, like me, were a fan of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And, okay, we just lost you. Okay, you're back. Thank you, Melissa. I appreciate it. As I said, there's weird connections going on because there's a storm, but a storm will not deter Maud Betty from her appointed rounds. And see, now the sun's coming up, so I don't even know what to do. So we were talking about La Bonbonniere, and the neat thing is, so Melissa, this is why I was kind of calling you out. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, like the very first season when they show her and Joel having lunch or breakfast someplace, maybe they're doing a late night, I can't quite remember, but they actually filmed that scene at La Bonbonniere. So when you go there, you can actually see that. So those are the 3 places I would recommend to eat in New York City. 2 other things I want to recommend. If you want to stay someplace in New York City, now I will admit to you, no place is going to be cheap in the city. Maybe that will be once, because of all the craziness. But I would say if you had one night to spend in New York City, I personally recommend the Algonquin Hotel. And that's also because it is a famous literary place and musical location. One of my favorite writers, Dorothy Parker, lived there for a while. And it's just kind of that old school New York glamour that you can go there. We typically will stop by there and have a cocktail when we're in the neighborhood to pretend we're fabulous old school people. But staying at the Algonquin, if you had one place to stay in New York City, I would recommend that. I just saw Peter and Candy chime on, and you guys, I wanted to mention you because I'm going to be talking about places on Long Island, so you may know some of these places, and if you do think of any that I may miss, please feel free to put them in the comments. As far as things to do in New York City, there are 2 things I want to recommend. One is, you may have to pay for this, but there's this wonderful website called untappedcities.com, and they do wonderful, kind of really interesting tours of New York City. And you can go like up through, I was going to mention going to Grand Central Station or Grand Central Terminal and literally just walking around and feeling that old school ambiance. They actually do a tour where you can kind of go behind the scenes. So if you want to be thrifty and just walk around there and absorb all the history, I would recommend just going and checking out Grand Central Terminal, not station, because Penn Station is not so beautiful. But if you want, this untappedcities.com does really neat tours of behind the scenes. You can go under like in the subway tunnels and stuff like that. Check out their website because they do really good things. I haven't been on one of their tours, nor are they paying me to recommend it, but to me it's something exciting I learned about, and I want you to know about it too. So that's New York City, right? So New York City, there are 2 other names I want you to remember, because this is when I will pass you over to other people who cover that city because they live there. One is a website called Vanishing New York. Let me see if I can do this right. Jeremiah Moss. This is his book. I'll be honest with you, it's really depressing because it's talking about how New York went from being the way it was until the way it is now, and some of the underhanded political and Robert Moses type things that happened there. But this is a really good read. I highly recommend it. And also the website. He often covers places like the Gem Spa, where you can get an egg cream on his website, and keeps us kind of, he's got his finger on the pulse. I'm showing you my pulse here, but you can't see it. He's got his finger on the pulse he's got his finger on the pulse of New York. The other couple, could be trio because they have a wicked cute dog, that I need to make sure that you know about. Now, pardon me, because their books are awesome and it's like I'm going to do workouts with this. So I'm going to talk to you about these guys. So this is, where am I? Storefront, the Vanishing Faces of Things. This is James and Carla Murray, and this is an absolute glamorous beast of a book. You could actually make a coffee table out of this. And for decades, they have gone around and taken these fabulous, fabulous photos of some of the storefronts, hence the name storefront. See if I can open, you know what? And they actually started a YouTube channel where they're going around in real time now, seeing what places that they have taken pictures of that are still around. So they kind of do the retro roadmap of New York City, and I love them for it. And say they've got this book, very heavy, very good, make a coffee table out of it, and Storefronts 2. Storefronts 2. This is an absolutely gorgeous book, and I mean, look at that picture. Isn't that fabulous? They take these wonderful, they find the places in New York City. So this is James and Carla, and they do a wonderful job of covering the mom and pop shops and the little hidden gems in New York City. I hate to be a bummer, but I will tell you this because it also gives us a certain amount of urgency when we are talking about places that we love, is that they even say these two books I showed you, probably 80% of the places that they've taken photos of that are in these books are closed and have probably been replaced by like a Citibank and a Dwayne Reed or something. But go out there, find their books, support them, check out their Facebook. I think they have a Facebook page. They must have a Facebook page and their YouTube channel. They're doing some really cool videos. I had the lucky experience. I was a bit of a fangirl. I was in New York City and it literally just happened to run into them at a bookstore, and I was just like, oh my God, I think I know you guys. So they are wonderful people covering New York City. And that's why I'm going to leave you in the good hands of those people, because we have a whole other part of the states to talk about. Because New York is not just Manhattan, even though many people think it is. It is also, where is it? It's also Long Island. Ooh, now the sun's out. Maybe it'll make me look younger. I don't know. So, yes, and I agree. It is very depressing how much of cool old New York City is disappearing, and every place. So Long Island, you can get to it from New York, landlocked New York, and there are a number of places that I want to recommend here. We have had the wonderful opportunity to head all the way out to both, I love how this has a map here so I can show you, but so New York City and all that is way over here, and then if you notice, Long Island is an island, and it splits into two. It's the forks. So there's the South Fork and the North Fork, and some really neat places around here. So I will see, as I said, I've got my paper here. I'm going to see if I can do like traffic and weather. So we're talking about Long Island. So really close to New York City proper, and maybe it isn't even officially on Long Island, but Coney. Remember I was talking about Coney Island, where you can have bologna on a roll. Coney Island, even though there's been a lot of changes, there's definitely some really neat, cool stuff to check out there. I believe there's a Nathan's Hot Dogs that is still there that oftentimes has a hot dog eating contest, which, go for it, people. But there's a place that I love that we went to when we were there the last time called Titano Pizzeria, and it's a wicked old school place serving old classic Italian pizza, and it's been there since 1924. So that's a really fun place on Long Island. Actually, and once again, no, big surprise, you're going to see how many of the places that Maud Betty loves happen to be places that you can actually eat at. Because I don't like to cook, but I sure don't mind eating. Close to Coney Island, getting a little bit further into Brooklyn now, is Brennan and Cars. They are on the Retro Roadmap Facebook website. Brennan and Cars is this old school place that is known for their roast beef sandwiches. And that is a really fun place to check out. If you're driving there, they do have a little parking lot. And it's just a really kind of a classic joint that isn't there. You're right, Craig. Hold on, I'm almost there. I see I'm moving from this way out here. Another place that I found actually after Retro Road Husband had a gig somewhere is John's. Now, John's, I say it like it's JAHN''S, and we have a friend John who we used to call John Fay. And this is a place in Jackson Heights, and they are one of those classic old school like places that you would go in and you can get like, you know, a tuna melt, or you can get an ice cream sundae. I love that place, and I love that kind of places. Similarly, on the ice cream tip, and still hanging out in this part of Long Island, is Eddie's Sweet Shop in Forest Hills. That is a gem of an ice cream parlor. They make all sorts of stuff by themselves there. You've got the cool old chairs. They have a really neat corner entrance with a wonderful stainless steel like door. I can't remember what you call that thing on top of a door hat. It says soda fountain, and it's just a really wonderful neighborhood place that if you know about it, you can go there. And now you know about it, so go there. So that is a great little place to get a sweet treat. Now, my arm is starting to hurt, so I'm just going to go like this. And you know what? Here, I won't mess with, I'll try to do two things at once. Another fun place to go to on Long Island, on that kind of west end of it, is Bigelow's. Bigelow's New England fried clams. Now, as you know, we discussed all the New England states a few, in the past number of weeks, and you probably heard that fried clams are one of my all-time favorite foods, especially the ones with the bellies. And here's the deal. Even though Bigelow's, which is in Rockville Center, is in New York, you can actually get fried clams with the bellies. And that may sound kind of ugly to some of you, but just try it. It's delicious. And I love the fact that if I can't get all the way up to New England, I can get my clam fix at this place, Bigelow's. It tends to get packed. It's just this horseshoe counter that you sit in as soon as you go into the building. But it's a really old school place on a really busy street, and I just love how it's still there. So here are some things we'll talk about. These are just some views of Long Island. I don't know if any of these places are still here, but it's part of my collection, so I thought I'd show you this. So one place I'm going to hop around to. So now we're going to head a little bit more east on Long Island. There was one more place. Actually, there were a bunch of places to eat there. Oh, thank God I turned the page, because I need to tell you about, if we're talking about sweet stuff, which we do. Bill Smith, nice to see you. Hildebrandt's in Williston Park. So this is a bit more north, but still on Long Island. Oh my gosh, so it is on the Retro Roadmap I keep on saying Facebook page, website. So you can check out pictures there. It is an absolute stunner of a soda fountain with seating in the back. So you can get a burger or a sandwich, or you can sit at the counter and get an ice cream in those little kind of metal dishes that they serve the ice cream with, and it keeps the ice cream cold. And it's glamorous on the outside. It's got this wonderful, I don't know if it's vitrolite. It's almost like a mint green vitrolite glass with neon, with their name kind of swooshed on the top. If you Google it, you will see all these wonderful pictures. And the thing that I love about doing some of the stuff that I do with Retro Roadmap, and now you guys do too, is the wonderful way that you can connect with people who you've never met, but you kind of have a bond even though you've only met virtually. And I say this mainly because my love of Hildebrands has gotten me connected with a bunch of wonderful people that are like on Instagram. I'm thinking Rolando Pajol and Sign of the Times, and my friend Tony Sachs. Again, we all share the love of this place on Long Island, even though we all have barely, we've met each other a few times or not at all. And yeah, meet me in Montauk. We went out to Montauk. I'll get to there. It's kind of fancy, but we'll get there. And then the other place I want to recommend to eat, because this is another neat connection. I love this. So when you know about places, even though you may not live there, all of a sudden you have something to talk about with people. And this place that I'm going to tell you about right now is the All-American Hamburger Drive-In. It's in Massapequa. In Massapequa, it's a bit on the south end of Long Island. And it's this great kind of classic 50s looking place where you go, you can park, and you can actually just walk in and you order at the counter, and then you go and eat outside, and it's got like that canted roof that kind of shoots up to the top. I think there's an ice cream store next to it. But this is a place that somebody told me about. We went there, we loved it, I blogged about it, and then check this out. So a few years ago, we were in Palm Springs, California for Modernism Week, and I love Palm Springs, I do, and all the architecture and stuff. And we met this couple, and we're making small talk, and they happened to mention that while they lived out there, or they were kind of transitioning out there, that they were originally from Long Island. And since I knew about these places on Long Island, we talked, and then we both realized we had a mutual love of All-American Hamburger. So, now like Ro and Rich, who live out in Palm Springs, and we who live here in Pennsylvania, are totally connected because we love this burger place on Long Island. So sometimes knowing about these places kind of bonds you to people or gives you something to talk about and have a connection. I'm so glad, Peter and Candy, you like All-American Hamburgers too, because it's a great place, and you don't find places like that so much anymore. But when you do, when we find these places, you gotta love them. You gotta go eat your burgers there. It's just, you gotta do it because we want them to stick around. So as I mentioned, we're talking about retro road map worthy favorite places in New York. I am definitely going to go past 3:30, just so you know, because not only do I have the rest of Long Island to cover, but then we have all of New York State, and there's a lot of cool stuff there too. Glen Wells, I know you chimed in, and I know that's your neck of the woods. You probably know a lot more places than I do, but I'm just trying to give a nice overview. So if we continue moving east on Long Island, as I mentioned, you go east, and then it kind of splits. And at that split, where you go to the South Fork and the North Fork, there's a thing that Craig and I mentioned in the comments earlier, the Big Duck. So the Big Duck is in Flanders, and Flanders is almost right where everything splits. And the reason there's a Big Duck there, first of all, if anybody is a kind of an architecture geek, that type of thing. So it's a building that's shaped like a duck. Crap, I think I have a book. I'm going to look for 1 second. Hold on. Oh. Let me see if I can find it. Anyhow, there is a duck. I thought it was on one of these. In any case, it is a building. Picture it. A building shaped like a duck. And you walk in here, and then back in the day, you used to, and you can still buy stuff there, but you used to buy eggs and things, because back when things weren't so fancy on Long Island was famous for its ducks and its poultry. And that's why there's a duck there. And it has now become a, like a landmark and just an iconic gem of that area. And you can go there, take your picture there, Instagram it, get people to know about it, go in and buy something with a duck on it, support the cause. And then when you're there, you can decide if you want to go like north or south. So we're going to go north first, because the North Fork is a little bit more low-key. Oh, that's awesome, Peter and Candy. The shrine to the big ducks in your house, Ferris cement eyes and Model T taillights. Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. So where's my map of Long Island that I had on my little postcard thing? So as I mentioned, so we were just talking about places. I'm going backwards here. So we're moving. Oh my God, I'm dyslexic. We started over here and we're moving here. And now this is where the duck is, right? And then now we're going to talk about the North Fork. Now the North Fork is kind of chill. There's a lot of vineyards. There's a lot of farms. So if you want to do that kind of vineyard farm, a little low-key thing, head that way. There are a couple of things you can see up there too. One thing I'll remember is a beautiful vintage diner called the Cut Jog Diner. It is a classic, really neat. I think it's a 1940s, and I've actually, and it's just a classic, wonderful little old school diner that you can go to on the North Fork. Also, when you're heading up there too, there's a great little town at the end of the North Fork called Greenport. Now, Greenport has changed a little bit since I initially went there, and some of the things I did love have closed. But in that area, you will find some neat stuff. So one of the cool places that I want to tell you about on the North Fork that I think has been a bit discovered by like the kind of hipster crew. Actually, if you go on their website, it's great because it's this cool old motel called the Silver Springs Motel that is this really old school, lovely, charming place. And they there's also been like a Vogue fashion shoot there. When I went and interviewed the woman who owned it, it's so adorable. It's people who go there for, you know, they're seasonal people. Like that's the place they go to all the time. But the Silver Sands Motel, it's got this wonderful neon sign. I'm hoping it's still that kind of low-key, old-school place and hasn't been too hipsterified, because that happens to a lot of places. And I have a bit of a push-pull relationship with places like that. But Silver Sands is totally old school. Then in Greenport proper, it's a neat little downtown you can walk around in, and there's a cool vintage carousel right near their place where you go and you can actually take a boat. So this is a neat thing. So let's say we were driving, and we're driving on the North Fork, and then we decide we want to go to the South Fork. Well, instead of having to drive all the way back to the Duck and go down the fork again, there's actually a little boat you can take, a ferry boat that you can drive your car on that goes from the North Fork to the South Fork. When you do that, you're going to end up in Sag Harbor. Now, the South Fork is pretty much what people call the Hamptons. So international, there's a lot of money there, so it's kind of moneyed. But there is still a great place called the Sag Harbor Variety Store, which is a bit like a five and dime, with not the five and dime prices, I'm sure. They did have a wonderful movie house in Sag Harbor that sadly there was a fire there, but that's a really neat place to check out. And then, frankly, when you get out to the Hamptons, it's still beautiful. I mean, you've got the ocean, you've got these beautiful houses that are mainly hidden behind the privet hedges that you can't really see it. But you can head out to Montauk. So in two places in Montauk that are of note, I would say, one is kind of a dodgy motel called is it the Harmony Motel? Here, music people, help me out here, because this is where I am drawing a blank. Is it the Harmony Motel? There's a Rolling Stones song, and it's all about how we met somebody at the Harmony Motel. Is it the Melody Motel? Maybe it's Molly. Harmony, Melody. I'm not sure, but I think it's a Melody Motel. And I don't know if you can stay there, but it's kind of a classic place to look at. I think there might be a bar attached to it. So you've got like a motel on the low end, and then there's this high-end place, which has one of those places that has been an old school place, which has now been kind of hipsterified. And that is the Montauk Beach House. Now, we ended up going there for some drinks and music because we were walking past one day. As I said, we've had the lucky opportunity to stay out in that area a couple times because Retro Road Husband has had some gigs at a place called the Stephen Talk House, which is a really cool kind of dive bar out there. And we were walking past the Montauk Beach House, and we heard some dulcet tones. And we're like, ooh, live music. So we walked around and walked in, and it ended up being, for those of you who know kind of more current music, there's a little band called the Lemon Twigs. It's these two brothers that both weigh about 2 pounds apiece. And they're actually, I think, from Bridgeport. They're from someplace on Long Island. And they were doing kind of an impromptu jam session out on the lawn at the Montauk Beach House. Now, that was very kind of, she and fun. But it was interesting to see what people do with these old school motels. So, looks like, thank you, Peter and Candy. So, Peter and Candy are longtime Retro Roadmap fans and friends. And again, talking about connections, the fact that I know these guys and we've met each other on a number of occasions. And it's because we share a love of similar things. Peter and Candy live out on Long Island, and that's why they're so great in putting in these places like Snowflake Ice Cream and Sag Harbor movie theaters being rebuilt. See, I wouldn't know this, but it takes a village. It takes all of us to kind of contribute our little bits. And so thank you for doing that. You also reminded me too of, did I write down their names? Because I'm always forgetting names. Rob and Monica. So if anybody here likes to go to yard sales or estate sales and collect things, Rob and Monica, I've never met them online, but they live on Long Island, and they have a great little website called Our Adventures Amongst the Ducks. And what they do is they are hardcore collectors and of all sorts of things, and they will go into houses that are having like estate sales, and they get in there and they find some wonderful gems. So if you like to collect, or you like the concept of collecting, but you don't want all that stuff in your house, check out their website, Our Adventures Amongst the Ducks, and you can see what they have collected and kind of revel in the delight that they must have found when they got some of these scores. So that is Long Island. Now, as I mentioned, we talked a little bit about New York City, and that's Long Island, but there's a whole nother part of New York that I just call New York State. And I know I'm going to miss some places, but I just had to share some of my favorite things. And then the more favorites I found, the more favorites. So I'll give a shout out right now. I'm not sure if he's still here, but Glenn Wells is another one of us. You know, as I said, it's not all about me here. It's all about all of us who are doing our part to raise awareness and excitement for the places that we love. So Glenn Wells runs a Facebook page called Roadside Fans, and that is a great resource for diners. Glenn also lives, I think, in the Troy area and Troy, New York, so he will know. There he is, yay! So Glenn, thank you so much for doing what you're doing as far as keeping the diner info alive. And I don't have many diners. Actually, maybe you can answer this question in the comments. So I was going to mention the Chuck Wagon Diner. Is the Chuck Wagon Diner still going on? Is it still around? I mean, not now because of the virus, but if the Chuck Wagon is a place to recommend or not, put it in the comments, Glenn. That would be awesome, because I didn't have a lot of diners in this one. I covered so many diners and so many other things. I wanted to focus on some other stuff. So one of the first things that came to my mind when I, oh, that's right, Laura, you went to, was it RPI? RIT? One of those acronyms. I remember that. That's very cool. Parkside Candies in Buffalo. So we went up to Buffalo, shuffled off to Buffalo. I get the song going through my head, but I don't want to sing it. Whoa, 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 off we're going to shuffle off to Buffalo. Now I've got all this like Ruby Keeler stuff going through my head, but I'm going to focus on Parkside Candies in Buffalo. This is an adorable, old school, beautiful inside. It's almost like you're in a wedding cake. This place is so pretty on the inside. It's a place where you can get ice cream and candy. They make it on site, and it has recently been renovated, and I mean that in the best possible ways. Like, they took what was good and they just enhanced what they had. And one of my favorite things about Parkside Candies is this delicacy that they have that's called sponge candy. So what that is I think other places may call it seafoam. I know there's like molasses sponge that they make at other places, but it's like this crunchy, sugary thing covered with chocolate, and it is so delicious. This is, I guess, my international, like, oh my God, it's so delicious, that I just love. So if you're ever in Buffalo, you obviously have to get buffalo wings. It's a no-brainer. But Parkside Candies and Sponge Candy. Glenn, thank you for shouting out some of those diners for the Taconic Parkway. I appreciate you putting them, because I kind of lost track of those. But thank you so much for chiming in on the comments. And if anybody else has any New York recommendations, whether it be New York City, Long Island, or the state proper, feel free to put them in the comments, because the neat thing is that these videos that I'm doing aren't just, they're live now, but then they stick around, and then people can watch them again, and then your suggestions will give people an idea of things to check out too. So thank you. I just saw that Greg Tormo is watching, and the neat thing about Greg, he may have heard me talking about Palm Springs, but he used to work in New York and live right across the river in New Jersey, and I will be doing New Jersey next Tuesday. But yeah, Greg, thank you for tuning in. So we were kind of out on the westmost west point of New York, kind of near Niagara Falls. So definitely check out Niagara Falls because that's like a classic. But I wanted to mention when I talked about kind of iconic foods out in that area, I was talking about Buffalo. So we talked about sponge candy and then of course Buffalo wings. I think it's the Anchor Bar is famous for them. But here's something you may not know about is there's a place called Schwabel's. And they serve a classic sandwich that's only known kind of in that area called a beef on weck. And what that is, it's a roast beef sandwich on this very distinctive bun. Thank you, Jeffrey. Memory Motel, not Harmony, not Melody, Memory. See, isn't that kind of funny? I'm losing my memory and it was the Memory Motel. Anyhow, thank you, Jeffrey. I really appreciate you looking that up for me, because I don't want to be on the interwebs while I'm doing this. So anyhow, that is the Memory Motel is over in Montauk in that area on Long Island or the Hamptons. Now we are in Buffalo. And so I was talking about beef on weck. So it's a roast beef sandwich and it's on this really interesting bread. It's a roll that has like caraway seeds and some really crunchy salt on the top of it. And it's really good. This place, Schwabel's, does it. And then also in the winter, Schwabel's has this great tradition of, now I think it's called the Tom and Jerry drink. That's kind of like an eggnog with alcohol and you mix it up in the giant punch bowl, little Tom and Jerry thing. But Schwabel's in Buffalo, that's a really old school place that you can eat an old school sandwich in. Other places, let me see, in no random order, as I always mangle, I wanted to, yes, and the Carousel Museum, you're right. I can't believe, how did I forget that? Yes, I have it here. I lost it. Oh, the Herschel. Yes, the Herschel Carousel Museum in North Tonawanda is a great place. Jumpin' Jacks, yes, we had fish there once. So excited. But Craig Fitzgerald, excuse me, not Craig Fitzgerald. I know too many Craigs. Craig Nye, thank you so much for reminding me of the Carousel Museum, because I also wanted to give a shout out to one of your favorite places and tell you something about it that you may be interested in. So when Craig knew I was going to be talking about New York, he told me that Santa's Workshop in Wilmington, New York, or what they call North Pole, New York, is a place that he has very fond memories of going to as a kid. The neat thing is it's still open, you know, in regular world, not COVID, everything shut down. But it's this great kind of old school roadside attraction where you would bring the kids and they can go and visit the North Pole and see Santa's elves and all that kind of thing. And the cool thing is, once again, I sense this thread of connection, like the fact that all of these people that I know on the in the comments are putting their favorite places. So keep that going. I love that. So talk about connection and talk about Santa's Workshop. So when I went to New York City to see Charles Phoenix a couple of years ago, he was doing a live show. I happened to run into this woman, Allie, and she came up to me and she said, I am doing a movie about the North Pole, about New York North Pole. And I thought, this is so neat. So I wrote about it for Retro Roadmap. So Craig, if you're interested in learning more, or anybody interested in learning about the history of Santa's Workshop in North Pole, New York, there is a video out there. I think it's called something like northpolefilm.com, and Allie Cotterill and I exchanged, some neat, fun emails, and again, connecting about the things we love. So again, this type of thing brings everybody together because you have something to talk about. And it's all about connection. Now, this is going to be a stretch because my friend Bill Smith chimed in, and I know him from Massachusetts. He lives in Phoenix. This isn't going to be a good connection at all, but it sounded like it was going to be in my head. So I wanted to just talk about the Phoenicia Diner. They both begin with PH. So the Phoenicia Diner is in Shandaken, New York, and it is one of those kind of old school diners that has been slightly more hippified. And but it looks like they're really kind of paying homage to the history of the place. They're not slapping up, Elvis's and Marilyn's, which I just haven't. That just irks me so much. But the Phoenicia Diner is one of those ones that's probably a little bit hip, but maybe the food's a bit nicer too. You might want to check that one out too. Oh, and okay. So we were talking about foods. We were talking about beef on weck. I got to give a shout out. We were talking about hot dogs, or wieners, when we were doing Rhode Island. Wellsville, Texas Hot is in Wellsville, New York. And it's this great old school place that serves hot wieners. And the neat thing about that, again, connection, is that when I very first started Retro Roadmap all those years ago, Rick Seebeck from WQED emailed me to recommend that place. And that was like, you know, like somebody who you admire so much gives you this recommendation. It's so neat. And it looks like a wonderful place. But I know, Bill, I tried. But yes, so Wellsville, Texas Hot Wieners is a place to check out when you're in the western part of New York. And then in kind of a segue about hot dogs, I want to talk to you really quickly about Hyde's of Liverpool,Heid''S. My Facebook friend and person who I've met in real life, Linda Lefevre, always tells me about this place, and it wasn't until I was doing my recommendations for this episode that I actually looked at this glorious building that it is in. It's this absolutely cool looking like Art Deco structure with the glass blocks, and it's not one of those like 80s versions of it. It's like an old school place that you also can get like hot dogs and burgers and things like that. Then, because I'm talking about awesome architecture in New York State, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you to literally, this is one of the few buildings that I will tell you to go and just gaze upon it, because you can't go inside. Well, you probably can go inside, but it's probably not as nice outside. But where is it exactly? Syracuse, New York. They call it the NIMO building. That's the Niagara Mohawk building. And I have it on the Retro Roadmap website. And if you Google it, you'll see why I rave about it, because it is this glorious Art Deco, magnificent building. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like Niagara Mohawk, I think it's the electric company or the power company. And it's just so beautiful. And you can just sit there. I literally, if I was there, I'm not kidding, I would take my folding chair, I would sit myself on the other side of the street, and I would watch the sunset reflect off of this building, because it just changes. It's got these wonderful kind of Art Deco ziggurats and, you know, very stylized things, and it is so glamorous, and you just don't see beautiful public architecture like that anymore. So if you happen to be in Syracuse, definitely do yourself a favor, drive to the NIMO building, get out of your car, and check that out. So now I see that I've got a couple of questions in here. I've got, oh, wonderful. Yay, thank you everybody for putting in some of these good comments. I'm sorry if I'm getting you hungry. I made the correct mistake of, I ate a little bit before I made this video, because I do often get myself hungry after telling everybody about all these great places to eat. Daily Planet Diner, retro records and stuff on the walls, noted. Phoenicia, yes, okay, tastefully renovated. I love that. I love that. Now, I have not had Cornell-style chicken. I've heard of it, but I'm intrigued, because you know how I love those foods that you can't get anywhere else. Any glorious hot dog recipes available? You know, I'm old school. I like mine on a New England style bun, which as I keep on raving about, are the ones that are like bread on either side, so you can grill them and they get nice and toasty. So it's like the bread folded, not like the heel of the bread folded like most hot dog buns. And then I literally will put just relish and mustard on mine. That's what I do. But there's all sorts of ones. A lot of these hot wiener places are Greek inspired, and there'll be like a meat sauce or maybe a famous relish that they have. And I love how each little hot dog place has its own unique things. Yay, I see some really good, oh my God, I'm so excited. Yes. Okay, Helen Diane, Manitoga. So Manitoga is a place that I have on my little traffic and weather thing here. And that's a bit more mid-mod map for some people, I think. But if you love mid-century design, this is Russell Wright. He was a famous designer of all sorts of things. In the anywhere I think from the 30s probably to the 50s, and this was his home, and you can take tours of it, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Kind of built into the side of a like a hill that overlooks water, similar to the concept of falling water, but not necessarily the same thing. And then also, I realize I'm kind of jumping around geographically, but bear with me because this is how my brain works. So we were just talking about Russell Wright's house, and Manitoga is in the eastern part of New York State. But if you go all the way to the west, like we were kind of in that Buffalo area and stuff, check this out, Jamestown, New York. They have a Lucy and Desi Arnaz Museum that I didn't know about until I was doing this. And that's because Lucille Ball, her hometown is Jamestown, New York. So that seems like a fun place to visit. And look, it actually doesn't have anything to do with food, since I know I do talk a lot about the foods. So let me tell you a few other fun places to visit that you don't necessarily need to eat when you're in New York State. So speaking of wacky places and random towns, Leroy, L-E-R-O-Y, I think there's a space between the Le and the Roy. There's the Jello Museum. I went to it. Did you ever want to learn about the history of Jello? I found it fascinating. I bought a t-shirt. I bought a pot holder, because that's what you do. But Leroy, New York is where the Jello Museum is. So check that out. Let's see what else. We talked about that. Oh, well, just, Craig and I, we were talking about old amusement parks and things like that. This one is, again, on the almost on like the Connecticut border of New York, which is Rye Playland. And you can always remember where it is if you just call it Rye Playland as opposed to Playland, because it's in Rye, New York. And it is a wonderful old school, I think it's owned by the county, so there's always some drama about like what they're doing with the park, but it's got some wonderful old school rides. The steeplechase, I believe it's called. I wrote about it a number of years ago for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They have one of, I think, only 2 or 3 steeplechase rides left in the entire country. And what the steeplechase is, it's a bit like a carousel, but it goes really fast. So you just hang on to your horse and it goes like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Very fun, very fun. Rye Playland also has like a wooden roller coaster, and it does have a standard awesome carousel, and you can get to that like within a second of being on 95 going through New York State. And also what's up there, and I didn't have it on my list, but Janet, you keep on asking about hot dogs, is a place called Walter's Hot Dogs. Walter's Hot Dogs, apologies for forgetting the name of the town it's in, but it's in that area, and it's in this great little building that has like this kind of Asian-inspired rooftop, and they are just a wonderful little place where you can pull over and get a hot dog. So, yay! Yes, the steeplechase ride is terrifying and incredible. Yes, and the other one, the other one's in Ohio, Sandusky, Ohio. What's that park? There's a park in Sandusky, Ohio. Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio has the other steeplechase that I know of. So speaking of other places to go to in New York, I would say Lake George. Lake George is a great place. It's kind of a place up in the mountains that you can go and you can stay in some of these old-fashioned motels. There's a Tiki Motel there that we've gone to a Tiki event in every couple of years, and you can also take a ride on a paddle boat around Lake George. If you go, and it's a neat little downtown to walk around. They've got some old, as I said, like some cool vintage signs and motels, all very well kept. They may not have embraced their vintage, they may not have been embraced their vintage, there we go, Lake George. They may not have embraced their vintage history, but they are still keeping them very well maintained. And they have a Goonie golf, you're right. Marianne, nice to see you. Yes, you can play Goonie golf when you're up in Lake George. I love that. And then if you go slightly north, I wonder if it's on here. Oh yeah, check it out. So there's this place called Bolton Landing right here near Lake George. And the neat thing about Bolton Landing is they have a vintage diner there called Bolton Beans. And Bolton Beans actually is an old Worcester diner. So if you get to know what diners look like, this is one of those barrel roof ones with the porcelain enamel siding. It's blue with the white, yellow lettering. Very quaint inside, but that's Bolton Beans in Bolton Landing. Oh crap, we're running out of time. Lake Placid is pretty neat. You know what? I've not been to Lake Placid, so check me out. Here's the deal with Lake Placid. Lake George. At one point a couple of years ago, we were in Lake George, and Lake George had one of the last 3 remaining Howard Johnson's restaurants in the country. And we had plans to go. The other 2, one was in Maine, I want to say Bangor, and the other one is in Lake Placid. And I'm not kidding you, when we had plans to go there, and they closed like 2 weeks before we got there. I've not been to Lake Placid, but I've heard it's beautiful. Didn't they have what is that thing, the Olympics there years ago? I don't know why I'm so listing to this side. Hey everybody, check out all the stuff I didn't put away before I went on a thing. Anyhow, Anyhow, so Lake Placid, that's good to know. They do have stuff from the Olympics, excellent. Very cool. A few more things I want to mention. I often say that one of my topics is places to shop, but I don't often have a lot of recommendations. But this one is, if there's one place I could recommend to shop in all of that New York State, would be Vidler's 5 and 10 in East Aurora. So Vidler's is a 5 and 10. They actually consider themselves possibly the largest 5 and 10 in the world. So check that out. That's a little bit closer to the Buffalo area of New York. And it just looks adorable. I haven't been there yet, but I know when I go there, it'll be on Retro Roadmap. And that's actually something I just wanted to mention to everybody really quick. So while I was investigating places to share with you for this episode, it got me so excited about going to all of these places, like go to all the places. And I realized that I want to, and I'm going to make every effort to, but being just one person, I don't get to all of them. So I ask you, if you ever go to any Retro Roadmap worthy places, feel free to take some pictures, interview them, write up a story, and I will put it on Retro Roadmap. I will give you full byline, attribution, credit, whatever. I can't pay it because I barely make money myself, but helping to get these places known is what I do with Retro Roadmap. And so if you want to get a place known, let me know about it. Kind of like, and this is Melissa Carlson. She may have signed off already, but I need to give her cred because she has given me so many good recommendations. And she told me about this place that I haven't been to yet, but she has, and so I trust her implicitly. It's the Gray Haven Motel in the Finger Lakes region. It's just south of, oh my God, and now I'm totally blanking on the, wait, what's that place? Kind of the funky, Ithaca. Ithaca is gorgeous. And Janet, I will do that. So info on the hot dog joint and rye, you got it. I promise to send you a link for Walter's Hot Dogs. That is a promise. Melissa, I'm so glad you chimed in because I know you were singing the praises of the Gray Haven Motel in Ithaca. And I love the fact that you took some pictures for me and you gave me some info, and I've been in touch with the people who live there or work on it, and it just seems like such a neat thing that these people, again, they took an old motel and they've kind of invigorated it with new life. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to see things torn down. We want people to see the value in what is around and then, make something beautiful out of them. So if you're ever in the Ithaca area, as I said, I haven't been there yet, but I'm taking it on Melissa's advice because I trust her and I trust all you Retro Road Mappers, that the Gray Haven Motel in the Finger Lakes area of New York is just outside of Ithaca, and it's totally Retro Road Map worthy. And you know what? That seems like a good, wonderful place to stop today's episode, because this has been almost an hour, but there's been so much I wanted to share with you, and I'm so excited to see all of you tuning in and sharing information in the comments and asking questions. And see, like Brian, I had no idea that the Miami Motel in Canada is a retro 50s motel remodeled to full retro and vintage rooms too. See? Now, I didn't even know that. That wasn't even on my radar. But we are all helping. It's kind of like that story of Stone Soup. Does anybody know that? Where you have a little bit of stuff and I have a little bit, and we put it all together in the pot, and the next thing you know, we've all got something good because we all contribute our stuff. Thank you, Janet. I hope you're feeling better. I love how all these comments are still coming in. Ooh, dishware, great tour, good to know. And next week, I'm still going to do this. The sun is out. Oh, I do that. It's okay. The sun is out. It's wonderful. I love it. Next week, I am still going to show up every Tuesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. So next Tuesday, as I said, we're moving geographically from east to west. So we're in New York now, and then we'll be in New Jersey. Ooh, we're going to be in New Jersey next Tuesday, and then Pennsylvania on Thursday. Now that's going to be another one where I cut it up into little sections, but there's no way I can fit every place. So it's going to be like a highlights type thing. But I thank you all so much for tuning in. Please support your mom and pops who are near you while you can. As soon as we are released, let's get out there and spend our money where our hearts are, in these cool little gems that make the world and our lives so much more interesting. And be safe, wear your mask, wash your hands, be kind to your neighbors, all that good stuff. And I will, and actually, happy Easter, happy Passover, all the good stuff. Just think of the good stuff. Worrying does you no good, so just think of the good stuff. This is Maud Betty saying, thanks so much, Retro Road Mappers, and I will see you next week. All right?